Sins narrow spiritual functioning. Okay? The first thing that happens is that it distances us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not distance himself from us. Never. We distance ourselves from him. Okay? We set up the veils. We set up the barriers. We set up the obstacles. Okay? And that's why Tawbah is like the first step. Wallahi, it's the first step to getting yourself right with Allah. It's the very first step. It's the first step of purification of the heart. You read any book on tazkiyah, like you gotta really get good at this. And this is something that I'm not speaking to you theoretically. Wallahi, I am not speaking to you about this theoretically. I'm speaking to you about this from experience. Because, you know, from the time I was 16, I was in the streets and I was selling drugs. I got really good at it because I was Muslim. Right? What was that? What? Yeah. Because I was born and raised Muslim, I didn't have the same propensities. Right? If you came and you asked me for $100 worth of cocaine, I'm gonna give you $100 worth of cocaine. I'm not gonna cheat you. Okay? I'm not gonna cheat you. If you give me a package and say, listen, man, you owe me $5,000, I'm gonna give you $5,000, not $4,999, right? And so I started moving up very quickly amongst the consumers and the distributors. So by the time I was 17, maybe 18, probably more like 18, I was making $30,000 a month. This was in the 90s, y'all. This was in the 90s, okay? Right, that's the kind of money you wanna make now, right? Yeah, been there, done that, man. But eventually, of course, this led me to prison. And wallahi, I'm shortening the story. It led me to prison. And then I had to ask myself, how did I get here? Wallahi, I had to ask myself, how did I get here? And the first thing that I realized is that I had created distance between myself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I had to do everything to remove that. Wallahi, I went and I memorized every single dua that I could find, asking Allah for forgiveness. And it became my wird. I just was begging Allah, right? And I bore witness to what happens when you are established on that maqam. When you are established on that maqam of tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first thing he does is he removes the love of those things from your heart that caused you to have to make tawbah in the first place. Okay? So anyway, distance you from your creator. Number two, like Rasulullah ﷺ told us, the heart, it accumulates rust. Think of a satellite, all right, it gets the signal from out of space, think of a satellite dish that has to, in order to work correctly, it has to get the signal from out of space. Our hearts are like that. But if there's too much dust, if there's too much dirt, if the heart is damaged, then it's not going to work correctly. All right. Sometimes the signal is always there, but we're not receiving it because we're being influenced by something else. And Rasulullah ﷺ said this. Rasulullah ﷺ told us that inna lil bibni adama lammatan. Right? Bani Adam, the mankind, is influenced by shaitan. But he also said he's also influenced by the angels. He's influenced by both. Which is the dominant one is the question. Okay? And I'll give you one more example. Think about this. When you're committing a lot of sins, it's like your house is on fire. When you go and you make tawbah, it is as if you put the fire out. But there's still fire damage. There's still fire damage. You gotta come, you gotta scrub up all the soot. You've gotta knock out the beams that were burnt. You gotta put new ones in there. Okay, it's like that. So tawbah is really the first step. There's more work to be done, right? There's more work to be done. All of these are some of the consequences right here. All right? There's an inclination towards the lower self. whether it's hawa or whether it's nafs. The spiritual insight of a person is diminished. All right, these are the things that happen. And of course, same with trauma. Same with trauma. It narrows psychological functioning. Okay? What happens is we begin to function from the persona. The persona, that's the mask that we all wear. Many of us, we can't show our real self. We're afraid we won't be accepted. We're afraid that we won't be loved. So we hide who we really are and we put on a mask. Many times this is from trauma. Okay? This is from trauma. It also distorts your worldview. You're not safe. And many times this happens before the person even reaches 10 years old, many times. They're not aware of it many times, but that's where it happens. That's where it begins. If they're not, if the child, because the child comes knowing what it needs. And that's why it's always looking for mama and baba. Always. They're always running to get hugs. They're always running to, to affirmation. They show, mama, look what I did. Look what I did. Look what I did. And if that is not reciprocated, the child will stop eventually. But they will still need that love. They will still need that approval. They'll seek it out in different ways, sometimes in a destructive way. Okay? Many times. All right? Trauma, it narrows psychological functioning. It gives you a shame-based view of yourself. Many times this is why, this is the reason why we, people-pleasing, for example. People-pleasing is a direct consequence of feeling shame about who you are or what you need. So this person needs love, this person needs acceptance, this person needs approval. They needed that from the time they were young. They didn't get it, and so they're seeking it out later in the form of people-pleasing. Right? It doesn't matter what it is, right? The homie calls you up, and you know what I mean? You need to get some sleep, or you need to study. But whatever the homie says, you're gonna go do it. Because you don't want to be like on the outs with him. Right? We do this. Or I'll give you another example, which is about, reacting to the past and not being present. Like the wife, I'm gonna pick on y'all now, right? The wife, she's in the kitchen, she's cooking breakfast. The husband comes downstairs and says, "Oh, mashallah, you're cooking? What do you mean? Were you trying to say I don't cook? You're trying to say what? You're just starving all the time, right?" This is actually pain from her past. It has nothing to do with the present, nothing, all right? Because probably when she was young, a lot of the messages that she got was about disapproval, right? Not being, maybe living up to her potential or taking care of her responsibilities. So even though she's in the past, even though she's in the present with her husband, her psychology is from the past. You see? This is what trauma will do to us, okay?